This is one of the most famous moments in sports history. But this story isn't really about sports. It's about a war fought not with missiles, but with hockey sticks. To understand why a hockey game could mean so much, you have to understand how America felt in 1980. And the truth is, America felt like it was losing. The hangover from the Vietnam War was still fresh. An economic crisis had people waiting in lines for gas. And halfway across the world, 52 American diplomats and citizens were being held hostage in Iran. The nation felt powerless, and then the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. The height of the Cold War, a global battle for economic, political, and cultural dominance. And on every front, it seemed the Soviets were winning. The world was a chessboard, and sports, especially the Olympics, were a major battleground. It was a direct test of systems, their communism versus our capitalism. And in that battle, the Soviets had a nuclear option, their hockey team. They weren't just a team, they were a dynasty known as the Big Red Machine. They had won the last 4 Olympic gold medals. They were professionals in all but name, playing together for years with a creative, free-flowing style that no one could match. Between 1960 and 1980, they had outscored the United States in the Olympics, 117-26. Just 3 days before the Olympics began, they humiliated the Americans in New York City 10-3. It wasn't a game, it was a demolition. The man tasked with facing this machine was Herb Brooks. A college coach with a degree in psychology, Brooks had a radical idea. He believed that all-star teams fail because they rely solely on individual talent. He didn't want the best players, he wanted the right players. He assembled a team of college kids, the youngest in U.S. history, many of whom were bitter rivals. So how do you unite them? Brooks's psychological trick was to make them hate him. He became a tyrant, pushing them to their physical and mental limits, forging their rivalries into a single identity, Team USA. And he taught them a new way to play, a hybrid style, mixing North American grit with the Soviets' own creative puck possession game. He was going to beat the machine by learning its secrets. February 22, 1980. The game begins, and just like everyone predicted, the Soviets score first, but the Americans fight back. The first period ends in a shocking 2-2 tie. And then came the moment that Soviet coach Viktor Tikhonov would later call the biggest mistake of my career. He benched his legendary goalie, Vladislav Tretiak. It was a move born from emotion and arrogance, and it was the first crack in the machine. The Soviets dominated the second period, but the Americans, thanks to Brooks's brutal conditioning, were still standing. Then, midway through the third, Mark Johnson ties it up, 3-3. And with exactly 10 minutes left, Captain Mike Eruzione, a kid who couldn't even crack a pro lineup, fires a wrist shot that changes history. 4-3, USA. What followed were the longest 10 minutes in American sports history. When the clock hit 0, it was more than a hockey game. For a country feeling beaten down, it was a jolt of hope, a reminder of what was possible. It was a symbolic victory of the underdog, of democracy, of a team of college kids over a state-sponsored machine. And in the Soviet Union, the state media called it a fluke and downplayed the loss. But the players were devastated. They were so ashamed, they refused to have their names engraved on their silver medals. One player later said the politicians almost wanted to kill them when they returned home. The miracle on ice wasn't a miracle because of the scoreboard. It was a miracle because, for one cold night in Lake Placid, the anxieties of a nation and the weight of a global ideological struggle were placed on the shoulders of 20 young men. And against all odds, they didn't just win a game. They gave a country permission to believe again.